And it's the end of January, so you know what that means. It's time for another monthly tier list, where I rank all the movies, shows, games, and books that I read, played, watched, all that shit. You know the drill by now if you've been around. If not, you're new and welcome. With that out of the way, let's just jump right into what I watched.
One last time.
We did it, guys. We got past the show that gave us a new revamping of 80s nostalgia, like we've always wanted. We sure do miss Reagan's bigotry and destruction of the economy. Anyways, Stranger Things Season 5 is just whatever. I see a lot of people disappointed, but I was never really a fan of the show and stopped watching a bit ago, but Matt dragged me back in. I definitely think this season is the weakest, and the last two episodes in particular are just not it. A lot of the casts are bigoted Zionists, and giving one said Zionist a more focal point this season was a terrible idea, considering Zionists cannot act. I mean, just look at Gal I Support Child Murder Gadot over there.
I need you to give me the stone!
It's like Zionism cast a curse on you to be a terrible actor. Dear God. Anyways, giving that terrible actor a moment that should be very impactful, and one of the final acceptances left in its friend group of outcasts, absolutely ruins it. On top of it not being the best written, the finale itself is incredibly basic and safe, even giving the ending a cop-out itself, which feels less like continuing a message of hope and instead appeasing every fan possible. An entire side plot and point of the show involving being bullied is magically healed off screen for some reason and makes no sense. The final showdown itself is pretty uninteresting and could have used more established monsters to probably make it at least a little better, and the visual effects aren't the greatest at times, especially for a show that I assume has a decent budget. Again, it's still good, just a lot more I could complain about this season, but Stranger Things Season 5 will be going a good tier. 7 out of 10. God, this is a tough read for me. It's not bad, it just can be very triggering for a trans individual like myself, and probably anyone queer in general. This novel follows a young transgender boy named Benji as he escapes a religious cult in a post-apocalyptic world. The book really made me feel seen in ways I don't often get from other depictions of gender dysphoria, which is probably because Andrew Joseph White, the author of this book, is a trans man himself. That's exactly what made it so tough. So many of the trials that the main character goes through just feel relatable, despite him being the opposite trans of me. That underlying gender dysphoria and outcast feeling is just a fundamental part of most people's trans experience. I also appreciate this book's showcase of different levels of gender dysphoria. It's not all 100% of our body all the time that gives us dysphoria. Some people, are fine with the parts of their body that are more aligned with the gender they are not. So the book discussing more of that is good to see. Everything surrounding the transness and queerness is good as well, and my one complaint that the writing sometimes feels a bit corny, I guess is the word, is often helpful in making the feeling of our lead being a young trans man more believable. I really like the exploration of religion and growing up queer and discovering if you still do or even can believe in a God you've been told doesn't love people like you. And I love even the climax itself revolving around that just as much as the action. Finally, I also want to say that this book finally made me learn a set of neopronouns, as one of the characters uses ze/them pronouns. I even tried to do research on how to pronounce them, since I assumed it would be the way I thought, but I wanted to double check. But I actually had trouble finding a YouTube video going over it, and I did search a bit before finally stumbling upon one from a smaller channel. It's unfortunate there's not more information easily accessible about this out there. Anyways, I'm glad it pushed me into learning more about the larger queer community in that way, even if it's just a side character that uses those pronouns. Hell Followed With Us is going in great tier. 8 out of 10. Yeah, check out my podcast for full thoughts. This, as an Oscar winner, has been talked about a lot, so I'll be brief here. I think the class disparity is shown incredibly well here, especially when we go from the family living it up high almost immediately to the flood and their lowest point as poorer people. It's incredibly tragic throughout with just the right amount of comedy, which doesn't create a tonal whiplash and ruin the overall fluidity and theming of the story. I love the exploration of the lack of wealth and how capitalism truly ruins and changes all of us eventually. I just really feel bad for this family, especially with that ending, which almost feels like it wants you to have a bit of hope before immediately taking us away from that and reminding us of the harsh reality of capitalistic society, where it's a matter of luck rather than skill to ever pick yourself up. Parasite is going in great tier, above Hell Followed With Us. 9 out of 10.
よしよし。ひー、父の鬼。
Each season, I'm just surprised how well this works. Combining heavy action, spy thriller, and slice of life elements into one show does not seem like it would work, and yet this show does it in such a way that the clashing of genres makes it more beautiful. Nothing feels like it overstays its welcome, and combined with likable characters, funny dialogue, and tense moments, the show always manages to keep me entertained. In particular, this season, I really enjoyed the bus bomb part and the final arc with Lloyd. The bus bomb part is so emotional, intense, but also incredibly funny, managing to balance it just like the rest of the show, while the final arc feels like it really pushes the plot and some character connections forwards. I'll be ready for season 4, and I'm just vibing with the show in general, so keep it coming. Spy X Family Season 3 is going in great tier. Below Hell Followed With Us. 8 out of 10. I didn't think the Mad Lads could do it, but they managed to make a better Super Mario Galaxy. At first, I feared this game would be too busy retreading the same grounds as Galaxy and not pushing its ideas, but not too long into it, I see that's not the case. In the true spirit of being a sequel, it takes Galaxy and pushes its ideas into new and unexpected directions. The game is just incredibly fun to go through, and while I think maybe the bosses in the first Galaxy games are stronger and more memorable, that is the only one-up I'd give to Galaxy. Oh, that in the hub world. Comet Observatory is 100 times better than Starship Mario. It's pretty disappointing. I do surprisingly like the level select here though. This 2D map selection is basic, but also just really charming to me. It's just the right level of simplicity. I think the levels are great and fun to blast through or semi-explore as well. There's no like huge open world one or anything, but that's never been the idea of Galaxy. Honestly, this game reminds me of a better version of 3D World. It's like the reverse concept of it, and I guess that manages to work better. 3D World says, what if a classic Mario game was in 3D? While Galaxy 2 asks, what if a big 3D game was closer to a classic Mario experience? Not 2D per se, although this game has plenty of sections that are that, but rather it's more streamlined in terms of getting to the end of the level than something like Super Mario 64 or Sunshine, which are more sandboxy for most of their stages. I think I like this more though, because I absolutely adore this game. I had a blast clearing it and then having to replay each level to find the hidden green stars, which are pretty challenging to map and sometimes require murdering Yoshi, which is crazy. Oh yeah, of course adding Yoshi here adds quite a lot to the game, even if he's not in as many galaxies as you'd expect. The ending challenge is probably the hardest Mario's ever been, since you only get one damn life, and the level is incredibly challenging on its own, especially those hammer bros that snipe you from across the map for no reason. The music is just as fantastic as you'd imagine, with many wonderful tracks returning from Galaxy 1. It needed more Rosalina for sure, but I have to say I think this game has replaced Galaxy 1 as my second favorite game of all time. Super Mario Galaxy 2 is going in perfect tier. 10 out of 10. I never played the original Kirby Air Ride, but I knew people always said it either clicked with you and you loved it, or it didn't and you felt nothing from it. With Sakurai coming back for a sequel, I was pretty excited because even if I didn't like the gameplay, there was no denying Sakurai would give it his all. That's really what I admire about him as a game director, and he, of course, brings that attitude here. This game is crammed with so many different things. Things that felt so small and meaningless, but in the grand scheme of it all, make the game feel so much bigger. It feels so much grander than Mario Kart World somehow, and that has a damn open world map. Every mode feels so fleshed out and fine-tuned to the closest to perfection they could get. The character roster is fun and has some good picks from across the series. The racing itself is actually fun, and while I don't really care for Top Ride, he sure did perfect even that. City Trial is where this game's at though. It's not even racing at that point, but it's basically Smash Run from the 3DS Smash Bros. On steroids. Every match in City Trial feels so fresh, and when I play it online, I get to see all these interesting cars made by other players while I play. My only complaint with that mode there is that I wish it had more maps somehow. I know the one we got is big and hasn't bored me yet, but I don't know, one or two more unique ones might have added a lot. Online feels great and fluid, and I love how you can make really intricately detailed cars and then sell them online. It's fun to just look through the list of recents and find some impressive art displays before realizing you're too broke to buy it. The road trip story mode though gave me a blast. The gameplay itself is pretty mind-numbing, turn off your brain fun for me, but I love these impressive CGI cutscenes. It leaves me excited for the next Smash game and the potential of its story. I like the story. It's simple but weird and creative and emotional and fun. Now, I do want to complain about one thing I just don't like about this game. The control scheme. You only use one button for practically everything. That one button breaks, drifts, and inhales enemies. I don't like that. I know the simplicity of the controls was the charm of the original, but it just leads me to doing things I don't want to do when I don't mean to. I really wish there was some way to assign things to other buttons. Also, having to wiggle the control stick to attack is also not very good for me. I either activate it unintentionally, or when I'm trying to spin my car, it just decides to veer left or right instead of spinning. Stuff like that is what leads me to find a hard time fully grasping the mechanics of the game, and keeps me from wanting to get good at it. It's still great though, and with the other 3 kart racers released in 2025, I'd put it in the middle. Sonic was more fun for me, but I like this one more than Mario Kart World. I don't hate Mario Kart World though, it's still a fantastic game. Kirby Air Riders is going in great tier, below Parasite. 8 out of 10.
Christopher Robin.
The movie that answers the classic question of what if Christopher Robin had depression? This is a very simple movie in almost every aspect, but with an immaculate amount of charm that will keep you from the usual boredom that follows that. Winnie the Pooh and his friends are just such a fun cast of characters that it's impossible not to enjoy the silly adventure and silly antics they go on. The overall story following Christopher Robin and his new family is nothing special, but with this being a kids movie, it's perfectly acceptable, and as I said, I never got bored. Ian McGregor's great here and sells depression well, as you see in his later role in the Kenobi show. I imagine that show took huge inspiration with its depression from this one. Eeyore is easily the best, and Brad Garrett makes for a perfect Eeyore voice. I really don't know what else to say, just go check it out as it's easily the best live-action Disney movie based on an animated property. I am putting Christopher Robin at the bottom of great tier. 8 out of 10.
Are we the good guys?
One of the most average dad movies of all time, but Ben Affleck and Matt Damon are charismatic enough that I wasn't entirely bored the whole time. Propaganda perhaps, but I do like that this film sticks to just one rip, as they call it, and we are in one location a lot of the movie. They managed to make such a small-scale thing feel huge, because it is, while also making it feel claustrophobic at times when the story relies on it. There's a twist in there that Matt Damon sells very well, and while I don't think said twist is immaculate or anything, I do think it helps the film rather than hinders it. The acting's great, I don't think I have any complaints there. Matt Damon and Ben Affleck kept arguing like an old married couple to the point I kept expecting them to make out. The action is just average, as are most aspects of the film. If you have a dad, they will love this movie, trust me. Also, I let the nastiest rip out myself while watching this, so that must mean I was invested. The rip is going in Mad tier. 6 out of 10.
Hey, get me out of here!
Wow, this movie is not good. If having to watch Chris Pratt watch YouTube videos while sitting in a chair for an hour and a half wasn't enough of a turnoff, then the story's refusal to stick to a coherent theme definitely will. With a story whose premise should be the focus on the AI judge aspect, and the parallel of the lack of humanity in the police or Justice Department of America, they instead chose to focus on the thriller action side of things, which is a crazy decision considering we can only see said action in a tiny YouTube video on the corner of the screen, while Chris Pratt stares into our soul. The movie even flip-flops so frequently, first deciding whether it wants to be an anti-cop and anti-AI thing at all, then seemingly sticking to a pro-cop, pro-AI message by the end, which is insane given the reveals and events leading up to that point. And if that's not the message, then the writing and directing is so incoherent that it's impossible to even see it as any other way fully. Chris Pratt, at the end of the film, says, "We all make mistakes, human or AI," and that is supposed to be the big, meaningful quote of the movie, with a huge emphasis on it. But it might be one of the worst things ever said in a movie, alongside the entirety of Emilia Perez's songs. Someone who already doesn't like Chris Pratt and doesn't find him charismatic enough to carry this film in the slightest, this movie was just bad to have to sit through. It's 2026. The people going to watch these types of movies are not interested in a pro-AI and pro-cop movie. Those people are going to watch the Melania Trump movie and jerk off to the idea of becoming the next Hitler. So stop trying to make movies appealing to those idiots and focus on making actual art, and you'll get awards and an audience that actually matters. Mercy is going in bad tier. 3 out of 10. And that's everything I did in January. What did you do this month? What did you watch? Let me know in the comments below. And what have I watched did you agree and disagree with? Don't let me know what you disagreed with. That's rude. Make sure to subscribe, like, and all that cool stuff. And I will see you guys soon. We got a top best games of 2026 MooMoo Awards coming up. And a bunch of other fun videos planned, as well as another one of these next month, as usual. So I'll see you guys then. Peace.